Kia ora, talofa, namaste, bigarapai mai, and welcome to the Niche Case Variety Show, where we pop up early in the week with a bunch of Aotearoa sporting stuff that tickles our toes. You never know what to expect other than Aotearoa sporting funk and excellence. We are the Niche Case, the niche-case.com. We are the deliverers of big Aotearoa sporting yarns. And we do a couple of podcasts every week. We've got the variety show earlier in the week. We've got the niche cast later in the week. Prior to this, if you do love a bit of cricket, we record a cricket-centric podcast for the Patreon whānau because we love cricket. And we're going to defeat England 3-0 in the upcoming test series. So that's a good old time. Shout out to the Patreon whānau, patreon.com/our niche case. Best way to support the niche case and all our content, written, podcast, video, support it straight up the guts via Patreon. And you get the extra cricket podcast every week. Shout out to the email banger as well. The email newsletter via Substack, thenichecase.substack.com. That comes out every Monday and Friday evening, unless there's a mishap, and it might come out on a Tuesday afternoon, as is the case this week. So big it up to that. Check that out and sign up. And then you get an email every Monday and Friday evening with the Niche Case content, as well as extra content written specifically for the email banger. Email newsletter via Substack. All those links are in the description box below. And we are here for the variety show. We start our podcast with a dose of mindfulness. Whip it up, wildcard.
Yeah, I had one all set that I think I'll save for Thursday because I was just looking at my desk and some notes from a thing I wrote on the late last week about my scouting report on Costa Rica's football team, and there was a phrase in there that I think I used it on the the header picture for it as well, and I liked it, and reminded me that I was going to use it for this. So I'm going to use it for this. Remembered. The phrase is pura vida, which is apparently like they said it like it was like the national catchphrase of Costa Rica or something like that. It's at least something that they say, or like a sort of a summation of a way of life. Pura vida, aka translating that from Spanish to English, like pure living or simple living, and it just sort of is meant to summarize this kind of thing about I don't know, having the right morals, the right ideas, the right way of life, just not focusing too much on the frisky stuff, keeping things nice and simple, and focusing on what makes you happy, what makes you feel fulfilled, pure, the stuff that gives you energy. And a lot of this goes into apparently the fact that country is absolutely fanatical about football, which thankfully we won't actually have to find out too much about, because the World Cup playoff that the All Whites are playing against them is in neutral territory, which I think is a massive benefit for that tie. But pura vida, I like that idea and I like that phrase, and therefore I've hijacked it for mindfulness.
Hakuna Matata, may the force be with you. Aotearoa Sport Wildcard, leading segment, bit of a hot take, bit of a whatever the fuck we want to do here. What do you got? What are you going to share with myself and the listener?
Well, to put it nice and bluntly, straight off the bat, running through for that quick single here, Trent Boult is the best number 11 batsman on the planet. I've got stats to prove it too, but this one requires the full take. I'm not just going to chuck this in vitamin stats. This is definitely a hot take. I've got the numbers, and here comes the mission statement, the declaration. Trent Boult, best number 11 batsman on the planet. Over the past 4 years, only Jimmy Anderson has scored more test runs in the position of number 11 than Trent Boult, 132 runs compared to Boult's 115. But here's the kicker. Jimbo has batted 50 times. He took 50 innings to do that. Trent Boult, 17 fewer runs in only 17 innings. So Anderson, 132 runs from 50 innings, Boult 115 runs from 17 innings. Anderson had an average of 6.28 with a high score of 12, Boult average of 12.77 with a high score of 38. This is, as I say, over the last 4 years of Test cricket. Only Stuart Broad has a better average at number 11 in that time frame, but Broad has only batted 13 times in the position, and almost half of those have been not outs. Plus, he's not even really a number 11 because James Anderson is their number 11. He's only there when he doesn't play. So I don't count him. Plus, Boult's got plenty more runs than him. This is, over the last 4 years, but Boult's overall high score in the position, 52 not out, achieved in Bangladesh in 2013. That was, of course, at number 11, one of only 20 instances in the history of cricket in which a number 11 has passed 50. Trent Boult, he's done that. Most recent, Matt Henry against South Africa a couple months ago. For his career, Trent Boult has batted 75 times at 11, 13 times at 10. He averages 14.37 at 10, 15.91 at 11. So Boult is the best number 11 right now. How does he fare all time? Well, gets pretty interesting as well, because in the history of Test cricket, Trent Boult is actually fourth all time in total runs scored at number 11. Matthias Muralitharan, 623. He's number 1. Jimmy Anderson, 609. He's number 2. Glenn McGrath, 603. He's 3. Trent Boult, 589. He's 4th. And then Courtney Walsh, 553. Those are the only guys who have scored more than 500 runs at number 11, history of Test cricket. Not only is Boult's average better than all of those other guys in the top 5 by at least 4 runs, but it's actually better than anyone else who has batted at least 30 innings at 11 ever, like better ever than anyone else who's batted at least 30 times. And number 11 in Test cricket, Trent Boult has the best average. And so I repeat, Trent Boult, best number 11 batsman on the planet.
Big up the Bolts. I'm going to Wellington wildcard because I wrote about Joseph Tapine with the Canberra Raiders, one of the best forwards in the NRL. And I quickly realized, pick up Wellington because Joseph Tapine is from Wellington. And 2 of my other favorite Kiwi NRL players are also from Wellington. Jahrome Hughes, halfback for the Melbourne Storm, and Nelson Asofa-Solomona, big bopper for the Melbourne Storm. They are also from Wellington. I think Joseph Tapine and Jahrome Hughes, their junior club, according to the NRL profiles, was both Harbour City, which is a rugby league club in Wellington, apparently, and Nelson Asofa-Solomona, he was with the Upper Hutt Tigers in Wellington. So we don't necessarily think about Wellington as a stronghold of Aotearoa Rugby League, and quite often we can look around it because you go, obviously we got Auckland, we always big up Northland, Fisher Harris, Harawira Naira, those type of characters as well. Big up the South Island, Christchurch, West Coast. We've got a bit of a Dunedin focus now as well. If you've tuned into the emails and Kiwi NRL yarns, Rotorua, fantastic region, great things happening in the Bay of Plenty, in the Taranaki, in the Hawke's Bay. Kind of overlook Wellington. But 3 of the best NRL players right now are from Wellington, and they are all among the best Aotearoa Kiwis players as well. So big up Wellington Rugby League, and big up Joseph Tapine, Jahrome Hughes, and Nelson Asofa-Solomona as well. Big up Wellington wildcard. That's the theme for today's variety show. Big it up, big it up, big it up, Wellington. What do you got for your statistic wildcard?
Well, let's keep picking it up in Wellington, because I'm going to talk about some Wellington Phoenix stuff, because their regular season, all Dunskies as of last night, 2-1 defeat to Melbourne City, which was actually quite a promising result, and sets them up nicely. I think getting, Clayton Lewis back from injury, for example, and Gary Hooper getting some minutes in the legs as well, sets them up nicely for this is exciting, but a game against Western United, 9:45 p.m. on Saturday, finals footy for the Wellington Phoenix. And the first stat I'm going to chuck out here is that the Wellington Phoenix actually lost 1-0 to Western United the first time the 2 teams ever met. So it was actually Western United's first ever game, round 1 of the 2019-20 season. Also, Ufuk Talai's first game in charge. Since then, the Phoenix have won 3-1, won 2-0, won 3-2, drawn 1-1, won 3-0, won 2-1, won 4-1. They also actually beat them 1-0 in the FFA Cup earlier this season as well. So, but we'll exclude the FFA Cup stuff because rotated teams and whatever, just focus on the A-League stuff. 8 times they've played against Western United with 6 wins, 1 draw and 1 defeat. So as far as finals matchups go, when you get finishing in 6th place, that's about as good as it gets for the Wellington Phoenix. That's pretty outstanding. But what I really want to look at here is just sort of like just a few numbers at the end of their season. And just, we know they've gone through all these injuries. They've had these COVID yarns. used a bunch of players. I wanted to have a look at how some of that actually like shaped up now that the regular season is done. In the end, they used 25 different players who got A-League minutes this season. 22 of those players made at least one start. 19 of them made at least 7 starts. 16 of them made at least 10 starts. Gives you an example of just how much rotation was going on there, and forced as well. Leader in minutes played, Tapine, 2017 minutes. Ollie Sale had 2007. Both of them just crept over that 2,000 mark in the last game of the season. I think last year, someone like, it might have been David Ball, had like 2,300 or something as the top. David Ball was actually the only other joker this season who topped 1,800 minutes, but 18 different guys played at least 750 minutes. So again, like lots of different guys being used, and not just being used sporadically off the bench, but like playing big factors in the season that was. Perhaps most notably, the academy players. 15 different academy players made match day squads. 12 of them got game time, including dudes like Sam Sutton, Ben Wayne, Finn Sermon, who by the end of the regular season were all pretty much key players for the team. All up, and this is an incredible stat, 31.8% of their total minutes were played by academy graduates, which is, that's really saying something. Couple other quick fire ones. 49 goals conceded across the season, equal third most goals conceded by the club, minus 15 goal difference, fourth worst in the club's 15-year history, but sixth place, good for a third finals berth in 4 years, and after only missing out on goal difference last term as well, so it was very close to being 4 from 4. It's actually been 10 years though since the Wellington Phoenix last won a playoff game, so I think that's next week's stat to break on Saturday night against Western United. We'll put that one to bed as well. Wellington Phoenix hopefully get their first finals win for a decade. We'll lock that one in. I'll pencil in next week's vitamin stats for that one.
Well, it's definitely going to happen now that it's big up. Wellington. Exactly. We had the Wellington Phoenix. We had the Wellington Kiwi NRL stocks. Wellington. So wait, Wellington has the best football team in the world. Kinda, Wellington Phoenix. Wellington has some of the best rugby league players in the world. Wellington is also really, 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 really good at cricket. So think about the Kerr sisters, Sophie Devine, some of the best female cricketers in the world. And this other bloke, Devon Conway, South African battler, chooses to go to Wellington. And right now, Devon Conway is one of the best batters in the world. Fantastic streak of IPL scores. I think he had an 85 not out, 56, 87, and he is going fantastic in the IPL wildcard. That is probably because throughout the history of T20 cricket, with a minimum of 20 innings, Devon Conway has the 4th highest average ever. And that is the 2nd highest average of players who have also scored over 1,000 runs. So Baba Azam is currently playing, and he's got an average of 45. Devon Conway is also currently playing. He's got an average of 44.8. So Devon Conway, one of the best T20 batters in the world, and he is also someone who has a better average in international cricket than he does for the corresponding format below that. So his first class average of 48 goes up to a test average of 63.9. His list day average of 45.6 goes up to 75. His T20 average, scratch that, waka, waka, waka. The 4th highest T20 batting average ever of 44.89 goes up to 50.16 for T20 international cricket. So Devon Conway is absolutely fucking dominating, one of the best batters in the world, and he is from Wellington. So guess what? Big up Wellington. Let's get deep into the mangroves here, wild card. Chris Wood, don't think he's from Wellington, but that's all good because the Woodsman is all good.
Yeah, rare non-Wellington excursion here on this podcast, but I've just been thinking about Chris Wood and his future at Newcastle United. And this isn't necessarily like I don't really have answers. I'm not really speculating. I'm just been thinking about it. So lay out some of those thoughts. So he was subbed off midway through the second half of a 5-0 loss to Manchester City on the weekend, which is not, particularly notable or anything. Man City beat a lot of teams 5-0, including a lot of teams that Chris Wood plays for. They used to do that to Burnley twice a season. Not particularly notable, except for the fact that it was Callum Wilson who replaced him. So Callum Wilson was the incumbent striker for Newcastle United, the number 9. He'd been out injured since before Wood signed. In fact, it was actually his injury was a major impetus and why they signed him in the first place. And it also kind of like that plays into this impression that a lot of people have of the Woodsman being like a stopgap player for Newcastle. They've had this major takeover. They've got all the money in the world. Chris Wood isn't necessarily seen as someone who will be there when the club is, doing what teams with that much money tend to do and winning a lot of games of football. But he's there to sort of maybe bridge them to that spot. I don't know. That's probably true. Like just looking at the scenarios. But Eddie Howe, his manager, has shown a steady hand despite his club's newfound riches and won't want. He clearly doesn't want to accelerate them too fast. He doesn't want to get them running before they can, walk. So that's why you get like pragmatic transfers of guys like, Chris Wood, Dan Burn, Matt Targett. That tells you as much. Like these are guys who are Premier League experience. They were there to make sure the team didn't get relegated in the short term and spoil their long-term ambitions and whatever. I don't think anyone really sees Chris Wood as being a major factor in the team if there's, at the point where they're making multiple 50 mil signings every transfer window and competing for European spots and whatever, but he has had an immediate impact on taking them from relegation fodder into that like mid-table cruise towards the end of the season. He did it almost record time as well. Like people will look at his lack of goals, but his overall performances have been a major part in that form shift. So if he is a stopgap measure, he's done his job. But Callum Wilson is back now. And there is a transfer window in the summer coming up. And where does Chris Wood stand moving forward? Like that's the thing I've just been wondering about. It does help that he's like a likable bloke. I think his manager's a big fan of him. He's praised him many times. He definitely recognizes the ways in which Wood has helped that team get to a different level. And I, for one, at least think there is actually quite a lot of potential in a strike partnership of Chris Wood and Callum Wilson. I think those two could definitely play together. I don't think it has to be like one or the other. You got the big man, the small man, you got the strong man and the quick man, both good finishers. They seem to complement each other. I'm not actually sure where that leaves like Ellen Saint-Maximin. But to be honest, having watched a lot of Newcastle football recently, I think Saint-Maximin is a guy who his flash is worth more than his cash. I love the dude, but like he doesn't have a major amount of end product. And Chris Wood signed a 2.5-year contract, so that's already like not a long-term thing. That means one more season after next season, and generally like footy teams tend to want to sell players before they get into the last year of their contract. So I don't know where that necessarily leaves them. Not that Newcastle have to worry about money ever again, so that might not be a factor. I don't think they'd care if they got 2.5 good years out of him and then let him go on a free. Would he want to settle into being like a bench option down the line when they start signing expensive strikers? Maybe, maybe not. Like European football would help. A chance to play Champions League would help. I don't know how quickly they can get to that level or if they ever will. Like, who knows? But just because you're not the long-term guy doesn't mean you're the wrong man for the present. And a year and a half at a big club like this, career highlight for Woodsy. After which I doubt there'd be any shortage of Premier League teams in need of a reliable target man striker and a cheeky loan deal. One way or another, he'll be all right. But I am very curious to see what happens next year. Like, do they try that Wilson and Wood partnership together? It would mean a different formation, but they would have an off-season do it. Will they sign someone else in that position and move him back in the pecking order? Like, don't know, but it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Deep in my mangroves, we had a Professional Fighters League, PFL, scrap for Genah Fabian, the First Lady of City Kickboxing. Unfortunately, Genah Fabian missed weight, which was a bit of a bummer and something that City Kickboxing fighters don't usually do. However, Genah Fabian has been in the USA for over a year now. So keep that in mind. There was a big kerfuffle around City Kickboxing fighters having to leave Aotearoa and how disrespectful and unloyal that is to Aotearoa. Well, a bunch of City Kickboxing fighters have been outside Aotearoa for a long time. Genah Fabian is one of them. And that circumstance may have played a role in her missing weight, but she did win the fight. So Genah Fabian won the fight, but right now in the women's lightweight division, she is on -1 points and she is 0-1. So she won the fight, but she lost the fight and she conceded a point, going down to negative points. So she is currently 10th, and the top 4 fighters qualify for the playoffs, which is, I think Genah Fabian made the playoffs last year, but she is now on -1 point, which is, and her opponent, Julia Budd, who she defeated, is 1-0 on 3 points. So bit of a bummer that she did miss weight, but she did defeat Julia Budd. Pretty stock standard City Kickboxing recipe. Superior striking, adequate takedown defense, easy mahi, get the win. But it is a bit of a murky situation there with Genah Fabian, the PFL. Now she just needs to roll her next few opponents, and stay tuned. We'll keep you updated. One of the only kind of Aotearoa media organizations really highlighting this stuff, which brings us back to City Kickboxing, because there are some fights happening. We do have another title fight for Israel Adesanya. He is booked to fight Jared Cannonier July 2nd in Nevada, Las Vegas, obviously. So that's a big fight. Another title defense for Israel Adesanya. Blood Diamond, Mike Mateta, he is fighting on June 11th in Singapore, his second UFC fight against Orion Kossi. He had a loss in his first fight. So Mike Mateta, Blood Diamond, coming back into the mix. Shane Young, don't know what he's up to. He has lost his past 2 fights, so he'll hopefully come back at some stage this year. Dan Hooker, he told Submission Radio that he is not going back down to lightweight, I think he was, featherweight. So that weight cut didn't work out for him. He lost to Arnold Allen, so he should probably move back up to lightweight. He has lost his last 2 fights as well. Brad Riddell lost his last fight to Rafael Fiziev, and he needs to get back on the wagon ASAP. Also in the lightweight division, doesn't appear to have a fight booked coming up, but he is one of the best City Kickboxing fighters that people don't know about, so we'll be closely tuned in there. Carlos Ulberg, he's coming off his a win in his second UFC fight, waiting to see what he does next as well. Kai Kara France, second to Israel Adesanya in my City Kickboxing power rankings. He has won his last 3 fights, including a really impressive win over Askar Askarov, and he is sniffing around a title shot with the likes of Brandon Moreno and Davison Figueiredo. So Kai Kara France will hopefully get a title shot in the flyweight division or a number 1 contender type of fight coming up this year as well. So we definitely have fights for Israel Adesanya and Blood Diamond. The rest of them are just waiting for confirmation on their fights. Big up Genah Fabian as well. Should get back on the wagon ASAP with the PFL and hopefully roll through a few opponents so she can get into the pluses as far as points go. Question time here, Wildcard. You've got 2 questions, so I'll let you fire off a question to start us off here.
Yeah, let's do this Warriors one first, because Warriors another supposedly shocking defeat on the weekend. It is what it is. Mediocre teams are going to lose games, and sometimes they're not going to be pretty. But I'm just baffled by this. Just the extreme reaction every time they have, I've seen people talking about this being what a disaster, a new low for the club. I'm like, please, Melbourne Storm put 70 on them 2 weeks ago. Please, settle down. It's not even the worst result this month. But I've just been, I don't know, maybe you can solve this question that's been floating around in my head after some of this aftermath. Do you think it's possible that one day the Warriors might lose a game without people calling it an all-time low for the club? Is it possible that one day there will be some perspective around this team, or is that too much to ask?
Well, big it up to Chris Ratui from the New Zealand Herald, because he only pops up when the only pops up when the Warriors get smoked. His whole Warriors perspective as one of the leading journalists in Aotearoa is to do these big ass pieces about why the Warriors suck when they get smoked. He's not in the weeds of exploring anything else. He only wants to proliferate negativity. We know how I feel about the Warriors. The Warriors are cursed, and the Warriors are doing exactly what they always do, which I actually think is admirable. Because if you're doing exactly the same as you always do in more adverse context, that's a pretty good result. Like, let's be honest. So, I don't know. Something about the Warriors really taps into the demons and the dark arts of people, and that's why I believe they are cursed, because I don't think a lot of people are mentally, emotionally prepared for the Warriors. So I don't think this will actually change, because people are deranged and people are crazy when it comes to the Warriors, which is why I believe they are cursed. I have gone through the roller coaster, the ringer, the washing machine, and I am here with stable emotions, stable feelings, because I think they are cursed. And maybe that's my duty as a human on this planet, is to help people deal with their Warriors' emotions, because whether it's the Australian perspective on the Warriors or the Aotearoa perspective on the Warriors, people are clearly deranged, insane, crazy, ridiculous. And I don't really understand it. They're just a mediocre club, mediocre footy team. It's all good. Keep it moving. Next question, Wildcard. Big up Wellington. Don't think there's anyone from Wellington in the Warriors, which might be an issue for this podcast, because it is the Big Up Wellington podcast. Can you just rattle off any other names that come fresh off the top of the dome with regards to Wellington sporting excellence right now?
Yeah. Well, I'll ignore the sports that you already mentioned earlier. I'm thinking specifically about the stuff I've been focusing on recently, is basketball and football. There's a bit of basketball. The Wellington Saints have been a dominant team for the last decade. Not such a great start this year. I'm trying. A lot of players just move around different regions with the NBL stuff, not necessarily from there. But I'm thinking, the late great Kenny McFadden, of course, was based in Wellington, and Stephen Adams went to high school in Wellington, from Rotorua, but went to high school in Wellington. So there's a little bit of that, but definitely football. I mean, if we're talking about Wellington sporting excellence, I think football might even be at the top of the list, because the two top production lines of player academies in this country are the Wellington Phoenix, which already talked about how good their academy's been for them this season, and the Ole Academy. Both based in Wellington, the wider Wellington region. That's where the majority, and not every player, a lot of players are moving there from other parts of the country, but that's where the academies are based. But if you're talking as well, football is from Wellington. I think Lipi Kikache obviously would be one. Marco Stamenic would be another. CJ Bott would be another one. There's certainly plenty of Wellingtonian. Clayton Lewis is also from Wellington. Heaps. And as I say, the two best, as well as the Wellington Phoenix professional football team as well. The only professional football team is based in Wellington. Wellingtonian football is stacked. That's the big stuff right there. It's a large percentage of professional players of this generational wave that we've got coming through at the moment are either from Wellington or have come through academies based in Wellington. So yeah, the Big Up Wellington podcast is definitely going all right there.
Given how the Wellington Firebirds and Wellington Blaze perform consistently, and the Wellington Phoenix, you said you rattle off the football academies. We've got a Wellington Phoenix Wahine team as well. And of course, those academies produce a lot of female footballers as well. I think it's safe to say, I can't say Wellington is the rugby league hub, because I'm not across too many female rugby league players from Wellington in the NRLW, for example, right now. But I'd say Wellington is definitely the hub for cricket and football at this current moment. And that's just something we can track with our sporting yarn. So big it up Wellington, because they are the home of Aotearoa football and Aotearoa, what was the other one? Cricket, with the dominance of the Blaze and some really good stuff from Devon Conway and the Wellington, not the Phoenix, the Firebirds. Your question, Wildcard. One more question. What do you got?
Yeah, one more question, which is on a scale of, on one end, complete and utter existential dread and panic. On the other end, a blissed out druggy haze. where would you say you sit on that scale with regards to Kane Williamson apparently not having a very good IPL season?
One of our battles with New Zealand cricketers being what New Zealand cricket and their coaches and selectors have said. Like, they will state stuff and like when selecting a squad, and we will look at what they have said, and there will be a clear difference, whether it's the Black Caps or the White Ferns. There is a clear difference between what they have said and what the best practice is. That's been the crux of our niggle with New Zealand cricket. Let's just say that. In this case, it's fantastic because Gary Stead, he told us that Kane Williamson's return from his elbow injury and managing his workload and recovery and recuperation and preparation for the upcoming test series and all that stuff, the IPL was a good place for that. So if that was the mission, I have no feelings about how Kane Williamson is performing in the IPL because it's a warm-up. It's a warm-up for the test series. Like Gary Stead told us that. And Kane Williamson is obviously taking the piss because he's just trying to get that elbow right. He's just trying to make a bit of cash, fix up the elbow, get back in alignment with his cricketing future. He's just taking some time out of the game. Who wants to instantly get back into 5 days of test cricket? No one wants to do that. Yeah, you got blisters, your legs are fatigued, you're fucking all over the show just stepping back into 5 days of cricket. So what does Kane Williamson do? Let's just go to a T20 tournament. I'm on the field for 20 overs. I'm going to bat every so often. And I'm going to take my test batting into the IPL in preparation for the test series against England. This is fantastic. So can you just share with me the scale again?
One hand was existential dread and panic. On the other hand was a blissed out druggy haze.
I'm hitting up the drug dealer. Either for some, some LSD, some mushrooms, some ayahuasca, or I'm just
this mushroom season.
I am sparking up the bucky for the vitamin Jahrome vitamins as well. I'm not quite in the blissed out druggy haze yet of just pure joy with regards to Kane Williamson in the IPL, but I'm definitely circumventing Aotearoa's drug laws. Let's just say that. Musical jam here, wildcard. This is where we usually throw up some different songs, some different albums, and some different bits and pieces. But the musical deity himself, Kendrick Lamar, dropped the news track, The Heart, Part 5. And I don't know about you, wildcard, but I got the feeling. Like watching the video, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, listen to the song. I might have to do that soon as well, just listening to the song. But also watch the video because the video is fucking ridiculous. And I got the feeling of just like, you stop watching the video and you're just like, whoa. Like, what was that? It's just something about the type of music and the way Kendrick Lamar delivers it, the creativity, the messaging, everything about it just kind of elevated my being. Let's say that, wildcard. Elevated my being. Any quick takes on the new Kendrick Lamar song?
Well, yeah, like you, I want to watch it again with my eyes closed, or just listening to the audio only, because I feel like that kind of passed me by, because the video was very like it was simply done. Like it's just him delivering the thing in front of like a sort of red background, but there's these like deep fake face swap things going on where he turns into like Kobe Bryant at one point and turns into like the first one I know, because those things are fucking sneaky. Like you almost don't realize. It's kind of like the moral danger of deep fakes down the line is like it's at first I didn't realize what was going on. Like I just thought he's leaning in a different direction. It's like he looks a bit funny there. What's going? And then I realized Is that OJ Simpson? I don't know. I'm not sure if OJ Simpson was the first one that he did, or if it was just the first one that I specifically noticed. Because I'm also listening to the song, right? I'm trying to hear the lyrics and whatever. And there's a Marvin Gaye sample which it's built around from a song. I think it's called "I Want You" or something like that. It is, which I think is the title track of one of his best like 70s albums. Which is like that musical, just like the bass, the loop that they bass that is amazing. Like that's a great song and turned into another great song. But the OJ Simpson thing threw me, and I don't know what the purpose of that was, and I'm gonna have to watch it again and try to figure that out and listen to the lyrics a little closer. But definitely the end of it, where he's like, he's not only deep faked as Nipsey Hussle, but he's like delivering the verse as if like from the point of view of Nipsey Hussle is buzzy as. Like I need to listen it back and see, like, is that the status for the other ones or whatever. But I just love that dude comes along every couple years with like really, really deliberate, specific things that don't necessarily have easy answers, but are designed just to get people talking. I just love that. Like that's a different level to how most people operate. It's just like, let's get everything out there and you listen to all these songs that like, here's a really specific, highly orchestrated, heavily designed, like intentional release. And now everyone's just going to chat about that for like a week until the album comes out, and then that's the focus.
But like also just musically out of this world. Like it's far more similar to Pimp a Butterfly, just with the influences and the sound, like more jazzy, more just creativity with the music, whereas like Damn and Good Kid, Mad City was a bit more hip hoppy, just generally. Whereas this one sounded amazing, and I'm like, this dude's the Melbourne Storm of hip hop. This dude's the Melbourne Storm of music. This dude is Wellington in the context of this variety show. Like, he is so far above what everyone else in hip hop is doing. It's hard to say musically because there's a lot of other artists making exceptional music with so many different influences and creative pockets. But hip hop wise, Kendrick Lamar is so far beyond everyone else. He's so far beyond what everyone else is doing that I kind of think it's embarrassing for like everyone else in hip hop, because everyone else's hip hop is just making these like same musicy melody, mixed with melody. It's all the same. And then you have one dude who's just like, well, I can do this. And that's where it feels like the Melbourne Storm, because everyone's playing rugby league, but the Melbourne Storm are scoring 40 points every game. And they are playing razzle dazzle, where we used to think the Melbourne Storm were just like grind it out, inventing the wrestle. We used to think Kendrick Lamar was just a hip hop dude from Compton, and he was one of the best rappers. Well, the Melbourne Storm are the kings of the razzle dazzle, and Kendrick Lamar is basically the best musical act in the world right now. That's a great comparison. I'm happy with that one.
Yeah, well, timely for me as well, because it was the team I support's turn. It was the Dragons' turn to turn up and get 40 points put on them by the Melbourne Storm on the weekend, and it was just buzzy as watching them. And it's like,
well, the Dragons are Jack Harlow, and the Storm's Kendrick Lamar. Like, that's how it is. So I'm apologies to you.
Levels. Yeah, well, he's popular, but I don't know how good he is. But the Storm, just like every play, like you think the play is broken down, and then like there's just six guys keeping the thing alive, and just they're not just good, and they're doing this at 30 points up. Like, they're unbelievable. And Kendrick Lamar is also on that same level.
Big it up, Wellington. Big it up the Melbourne Storm. Big it up Kendrick Lamar. Big it up to yourself for supporting the Niche Cache and sitting here with us. Kia kaha, stay beautiful. Cheer cheer.